Welcome to Market Pulse on fleetowner.com with Act Research. I'm Josh Fisher. I'm joined by Steve Tam, Senior Analyst and VP with Act Research. We just wrapped up Seminar 72 with Act across the street here in beautiful downtown Columbus, Indiana. And Steve and I are going to chat about the used truck market. Steve, it's great to see you. You spent a lot of time talking today and yesterday during the seminar about where the Class 8 used market is. I'm curious that since we saw the used market prices really surge during the pandemic, and since mid-2022 or so, they've been steadily receding. Can you just give us a little insight on where that market stands right now from a fleet perspective?
Josh, it's good to see you again. Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about where the Class 8 used market is today. It's interesting. In the fourth quarter of 2024, we got to the point where we started to see some year-over-year improvements in pricing. So prices were actually going up in December of 24 versus 2023. And if you kind of disaggregate the market a little bit further, in the retail side of the used truck industry, there were, I think, 6 or 8 months where we actually saw sequential inclines. So from one month to the next, prices were going up. So we have clearly found the bottom in the used truck market price area, and we're starting to lift ourselves off that bottom. And that's a very encouraging sign, actually, not only for dealers, but I think buyers are relieved because ultimately, if you're buying, your car will also selling as they're trading. So rising wallboats or lifting of wallboats, yeah.
Are you seeing a difference between, you seem like three subsets for Class 8? There's vocational, sleeper, and day cabs. Is one doing better than the other right now?
That dichotomy or trichotomy, if that's a word, yeah, it actually does exist. Sleepers tend to be a bit more of a commodity in the used truck space, and so the increases were actually more rapid and higher on the sleeper side, but the flip side of that, the downside, prices fell faster and they fell further. So we're not seeing as much of an improvement in that space as we are for some of the other segments. Day caps were kind of lagged the sleeper side, so they didn't go up as high or as soon, and subsequently they didn't fall as far. And they are still lagging. They are still coming down a little bit faster than what we're seeing on the sleeper side. Vocational equipment was kind of the fair-haired child through the whole process. They did see a pretty decent run up, but not the same magnitude, and clearly have not fallen as far either. So demand is not nearly as volatile for them, and that helps sustain prices and kind of squish the peaks, flatten peak and raise the valley on vocation.
But speaking of prices, Class 8, new Class 8 vehicle, those prices are going up. They're expected to go up even more over the next couple of years with EPA 27 and some other things online. Based on your experience in the past, what does rising new truck prices mean for used trucks?
Ultimately, as new truck prices increase, so do used truck prices. It's interesting. We've done some analysis over a fairly long period of time, and the used as a percent of new tends to run in a very tight band. I'll just give you a hypothetical. Well, it's not hypothetical. It's a real-world example. But if we would just tape all of the Foskey used truck sales data that we've got in-house, so it's going to be all makes, all models, all miles, all specs, all ages, just a total top-line number. Traditionally, that runs about 30 to 35% of what the new truck price is at the same time. And so as new truck prices have come up, that's part of the reason we're seeing, at this point, increased prices in the secondary marketplace. So very interesting to see how that value change filters through in the secondary market.
And just to add to that, and we're recording this on February 20th. Not sure how soon it will be. The video will be up, but we are about 2 weeks away from the next tariff deadline set by President Trump with Mexico and Canada. So big uncertainty there, what's going to happen, but could you give us a little insight of a little kind of choose your own adventure of what might be based on decisions coming out of the Oval Office?
Oh boy. Sure, absolutely. Choose your own adventure. I don't want to say that the used truck market will be immune to tariffs. Obviously, directly, if it's a domestically domiciled used truck, it's not going to cross any borders, and so there's not going to be a tariff on it. But indirectly, if we're putting tariffs on other vehicles, and used trucks are insulated from tariffs, then they may become the safe harbor for those trying to avoid tariffs. Now, if that happens, that's increased demand in a flat supply environment, which can ultimately put higher prices or upward pressure on pricing in the secondary market. So the degree, it would just depend on what we experience on the new truck side.
Something to look forward to or dread, depending on us on your perspective. I think also something else that's interesting is it's 2025 right now. We are 4 years removed from one of the lowest production cycles for commercial vehicles in a generation, if not longer. Those are the types of vehicles that tend to come onto the used truck market, over the next 12 to 36 months. What impact do you see that having on over the next few years?
Yeah, well, actually, I'd like to rewind the clock on that question a little bit. So, if we go back 4 years and look at used truck pricing, I mentioned the 30 to 35% range. We were actually selling used trucks at that point in time at 125% of new truck prices. And part of the issue was the constrained new truck production. As that small class of 2021 trucks makes its way into the secondary market today, because of lower supply and solid demand, we're already seeing upward price pressure on that vintage of trucks. And I'm hearing more magnitude, $5,000 to $10,000 type radios. And we're just now getting into kind of the sweet spot, or when those trucks will be coming into vogue. And so we could see even higher pressure.
Adding to all this is something interesting that I heard you talk about a little bit this week, and that is like time and location when it comes to the used truck market. We're here in Indiana in February. It's maybe 15 degrees out right now. I know. Well, we're clearing snow off of our cars this morning. What is like geography and location and timing? How does that play into this market?
There certainly are components of that, and I'll give you a couple of great examples. Pricing has a definite seasonal pattern to it. We tend to see much higher prices in the March time frame and the December. Those are probably the 2 months where average prices are considerably higher relative to the average for the year. And so again, as a buyer, of course, you want to parlay that to your advantage. You up buying those months. As a seller, you want to do everything you can to try with your putting in those months, right? So volumes kind of follow a similar pattern, right? You have peaks in volumes in those March and December time frames. There's other seasonal periods, but those are the most pronounced. From a location perspective, I can't help but think that weather plays into that seasonality. I think there's a disproportionate percentage of used trucks that get sold in the southern half of the United States. I don't know why that is. It just seems like that's how things work out. Some of the biggest used truck centers are, Dallas, Miami, places like that. So hard to say for sure, but it's almost event driven, right? We talk about the folks not wanting to be out in the bad weather in the north in January, so maybe that's why volumes are down. We had a conversation yesterday with a couple of dealers, and they talked about what one truck might be hot in a particular location. Let's say in the Dallas area, you couldn't sell to save your life in Salt Lake City, and vice versa. And so having the understanding of that market, knowing the ins and outs, and getting the right truck at the right place at the right time at the right price. That's what the game is all about.
Just like life, right? About being in the right place at the right time. And I'm glad I'm here with you today. It was great to spend some time with you this week and to learn a little bit more about this topsy-turvy market, and put a little bit of clarity on the uncertainty a little bit. Thanks for your time, Steve.
You're welcome.